and welcome to day number 4 of the World Chess Championship featuring Magnus Carlsen versus Vichy Anand. And for all of you who have missed games 1 to 3, they have all ended in a draw. Carlsen started out with the white pieces in game 1, so since they alternate sides, Anand is playing with white this game. This is game number 4, and Anand starts out with e4. Immediately striking the center, Carlsen replies e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then we get into a Rai Lopez, where the idea behind that is when you take the knight and a pawn recaptures, you have the ability to take the free pawn. But Carlsen counterattacks this pawn on e4, and you have an immediate castle by Anand, and the knight just gobbles up the free pawn. You will notice that throughout the majority of this game, Carlsen has a lead. Hint hint. d4 is played. The knight retreats back, adding more pressure to this bishop, making him decide to eventually, I think, take this knight. And that's exactly what happened. The pieces are exchanged and then the pawn is recaptured. And as of this position, I would say white is better. They have a castled position. The pawn is very active, protected and active, attacking. And black is just in a defensive state of being, so we'll see how they develop later. We have knight f5, the queens are off the board, so Carlsen cannot castle at this point. And then we have a quiet move, h3. I don't really understand why h3, the computer is telling me it is the best move to be played, but I don't really get the threats that h3 helps to deal with. But maybe someone in the comment section could help me out with that. Nevertheless, bishop d7, rook d1, bishop e7, and knight c3. Just classical developments that you should be seeing in the first 5-6 moves of the game. It's shocking that it happened this late. King moves away. Bishop g5 adding pressure to the bishop. h6 knocking the bishop away. Bishop cannot capture. Instead, the bishop captures the bishop on e7, and the knight recaptures. Rook to d2. This when an opponent plays a rook move up, you immediately know that this rook will either be influencing a diagonal further towards the king or will help support the rook so that they will have a strong influence over this diagonal. And you will be seeing that later on in this game. However, black ignores that, plays c5, just adding the bishop's view along both diagonals now. Now, like I said, both rooks line up together and have a incredibly strong influence along this file. Bishop gets out of the way, and both knights reroute themselves from this square to this square and from this square to this square. Now, however, this reroute hasn't done much for this knight, but if you would notice, this knight and this knight have very good central dominance on the board. Anand is really looking to control this game, and if you would notice that not a lot of pieces for black are developed at this time. You have a pawn to defend this immediate attack. This immediate attack. Then this knight moves away. I don't know why. Give up a pawn. I'm sure Anand had some backup plan for giving up that free pawn. He was hoping to block the bishop in. However, this does not happen with c4. This bishop cannot be taken right now because of a move. If the knight attacks the bishop, then the pawn simply comes in there to defend it. and you could have a queen really shortly. So the pawn is taken, the bishop moves to safety, this pawn develops, king is in an almost castled position, the knight challenges the bishop and the bishop ends up retreating away. Bishop is pushed back to its home square, and now notice in this position the bishop came back to where it started, blocking this rook from having an influence on this diagonal. So this this file is completely dominated by Anand, and will continue to stay like that for the majority of the match because this bishop right here is blocking the entire game. Then we have knight d3, h5, f5, and knight e7. As you can see, the white pawns are slowly marching their way up the board, further even blocking this bishop from having any access along this diagonal. It's not good if you're a Team Carlsen fan right now. Game continues. Knight b5. Takes on g4, and now the rook adding pressure to land with check and then hopefully get some dominance on this square, or even try to pick off another pawn later in the move order, but you don't see that. You just see a calm knight defense. There's still this knight attacking a majority of squares, but this knight is just a defensive knight, and this rook shouldn't be really doing that. This rook should be in the center of the board trying to stop this monster file created by Anand. Game continues. Knight c6, rook over, pawn to a5. I'm not sure why not to a6, kicking that knight away, but hey, it's Carlsen, the best player in the world. I think he knows what he's doing. According to my computer, that was the best move. a5 was the best move. Rook c4. Now this relieves the knight of his duties because the rook is now functioning on both, protecting the pawn and attacking the king. Very good move by Anand. g6, rook over, and now this becomes the new target diagonal. We have a knight in the way, and this pawn, if this pawn falls shortly after, this pawn will, and these two pawns will be home free very easily. Bishop d7, e6, captured, and then the bishop drops back. Nothing really. Anand loses his 2-1 majority here. This knight is being protected by the bishop, so no rook's going to be challenging that. Knight e4 drops the pawn. Carlsen takes advantage of that, and in this position Carlsen is up 2 pawns. If you do the math, a knight and bishop for a knight and knight, 2 rooks, and 4v2 on pawns. King f2, check, and the rook drops all the way back. So if you can take a second to pause this, no pieces for black have left their side of the board. However, Carlsen has pieces on the enemy's territory and striking distance, so just to give you an idea on who's really the attacking side here, even though Carlsen's up 2 pawns, he doesn't have momentum. However, since this bishop is on the square, this rook can become activated. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Next move that was played was knight takes d4. I just let the computer play itself there. My apologies. And the rook took the pawn on c7 with check, king runs away, and then the knight was captured again. Rook over, check, king drops back, another check, king drops back, and now this rook is also attacking this file right here. The move that followed was rook to d3. Then rook a8 check. King moves away. Rook takes the bishop. Rook takes the knight. Still 3v2 on pawns. Carlsen should be able to win this, however this pawn is one move away. Will Carlsen be able to stop this in time? Several rook moves, rook checks occur. And this is where I was starting to worry. I mean, when you have two rooks this close, you should be able to hit a queen, but Carlsen is able to defend this. There's no point of queening because you will just end up losing a pawn and you'll have a rook v rook 3v1 pawns. Several checks on both sides, and then you see pawns getting exchanged. After more checks, pawns are exchanged. Rook is being pinned down to the king. King moves away, rook's exchanged. And I'm surprised because this game actually ended in a draw from this position. Both players shook hands. Carlsen had about 23 minutes left on his clock while Anand had 17. But I mean, you're winning by a pawn. I don't really see the reason to draw. I mean, 23 minutes is plenty of time to get a queen. But hey, maybe both players just agreed that this has gone on long enough. But nevertheless, great game. I hope you guys enjoyed my coverage, and I hope you guys are enjoying the World Chess Championships. Game 5 will be played I don't know, Thursday or Friday, one of those 2 days, and Carlsen will have the white pieces. So until then, YouTube, take care. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye guys.